If you are a singer and you have gone to a studio to record a song, then you know it is actually crazy expensive to record and produce your own music. And recording in a studio is very different than getting up and singing live, even if it's in front of hundreds of thousands of people. A studio can be really, really intimidating. So today I've got 8 tips for singers that will help you save money, which also saves time in the recording environment when you come to show up to sing your song. If you do these things to prep beforehand, I promise your sessions will be better, smoother, faster. You'll save money, you'll save time. Let's get to it. Thanks for joining me today. My name's Becky. I'm a music producer, but was a singer-songwriter myself, just like you. And my first experience in the recording studio, I was recording an album. My very first experience in a studio recording a freaking album. And, I bombed. I was really, really nervous. I felt intimidated by the engineer. It was just a really bad experience. And by the time I was done with my album, it was almost like, okay, finally that's done. And listening to it was okay, but, you know, definitely something I would not want anyone to listen to today. And I spent thousands of dollars. So over the years, I became really focused more on the fact that I love to create in the studio. So I became a recording engineer and a producer. But part of what really drove me to that end and what continues to drive me to help singers prepare for the studio is so that they have better experiences than what I did when I first went to the studio. So today I want to talk about these are 8 tips that if you will do beforehand, before your recording session, I promise they'll save you money and save you time. And just for joining me today, please grab your artist branding workbook. There's a link to it in the description below. It's going to help you refine, define your artist brand so that you can stand out in this very noisy music space right now. Number 1 tip, get a DAW. A DAW is a digital audio recording or digital audio workstation. And this is the software that we record in home studios and even the fancy studios, what they're recording in. It's called a DAW. And there's everything from free versions to expensive versions. I use one called Cakewalk by BandLab because that's what I started with. I'm a PC person and not a Mac person. And for years, it was a PC only DAW. So I usually end up asking people before they choose a DAW, well, are you a Mac person or a PC person? And if they say PC person, I say, get Cakewalk. I spent, thousands of dollars on it over the years, but it recently was bought out by a different company, bought out by BandLab, and they have been giving it away for free, and which is amazing. It's the full version that I use and have used professionally to produce records. So if you are a PC person, I strongly recommend grabbing it. This is not an affiliate or anything like that, but I'll put the link to Cakewalk by BandLab in the description below. And don't use the cloud version. You want to download it to your computer. That version is totally different and much more complete than the cloud version, which basically is like, oh, you can make loops and stuff like that. But there are other DAWs that offer like a light version or a free version, but kind of start there. If you're a Mac person, there's going to be certain options. If you're a PC person, there's certain options. Mac, the Logic is a really great option. I think there's some DAWs that are equal. It doesn't matter if you're a Mac or a PC person. They have great versions in both. Some like Pro Tools for a while, their PC version was pretty crappy. It was crashing all the time. I think it's better now, but when they first crossed over into the PC offering, it was bad. But like Logic, I think might be only Mac. I'm not sure. But check out all of the different DAWs for your preferred type of computer. Start there and then pick one. And then that leads us to number 2. The number 2 tip is to record yourself in mock sessions as much as you can. This is why you need a DAW. Mock sessions are just basically you're going to replicate the process of recording a song from beginning to end. And what this does is it prepares your brain for all of the things that you're going to be faced with, the decision making that you have to do in the recording studio, but you're going to be doing it ahead of time. So once you get to the studio, you'll already have these decisions made. Which leads us to number 3. When you do these mock sessions, don't just pretend. I want you to really record. This means you need to be able to record. You need a microphone, you need headphones, you need an audio interface. If you are like, I have no idea what I'm doing here, I need some help, I do have a course. I'll link to that in the description below. It's just called The Basics Recording. I can't even remember. Recording at Home for Non-Techie People. I also have an ebook that I'll throw in for free if you get that course that just has all the basics about the equipment that you need. So be sure to grab those if you're completely barely getting started and just need some help. So, number 3, when you record, do it from the perspective of, okay, this is like the real deal. And make sure that you're listening back in real time. So you record a line or record the verse, go back and listen and see if, like, okay, this is what I'd want to hear. Or do you need to rethink your phrasing? Do you need to rethink your diction? Are you sure that you're really getting the emotion across? Really try to create a recording that sounds like what you want the final product to sound like. Maybe the equipment isn't going to be as great, so it's not going to sound as polished. That's fine. That's why you're going to the studio. But just make sure your responsibility as the vocalist is really happening. It's really coming through. Number 4, map out your backing vocal ideas if you have them. Now, if you don't, that's okay. If you're working with a producer who can help you with that process, I love backing vocals. It's like my favorite part. So if someone shows up and they don't have any ideas, I'm like, oh, cool, let's get to it. I have plenty of ideas. But if you have your own ideas, start to sketch those out in your DAW. Record the harmony, the spots that you want harmony, and make sure that you like the overarching flow of the harmonies and how it's helping the song build and how they're not getting in the way of the lead vocal, things like that. Number 5, map out your lead vocal best approach. Now, for example, most singers, as their voice gets warm, the low notes become a little bit harder to hit, believe it or not. It's like when you wake up in the morning, you're like, oh, hello, I'm a bass. And then by the end of the day, you're like, I cannot hit that low E flat anymore. Well, it's going to be the same thing when you're recording your song. If you have a section of a song that's really low, then you might want to grab those first before your voice is super duper warm, because once your voice is all warm and you've been singing all these high notes and your chords are nice and stretched out, you might not be able to hit those low notes. And that's something you might not know until you're doing these mock sessions. So when you do your mock session and you start to notice, ooh, by the time I get to the bridge and I need to hit that big, high, super hard belty note, but I'm already tired. I've already been singing for 2 hours. I have no more energy left. Now you know, okay, I need to show up and do the bridge first while my voice is nice and fresh. You just figure out what's going to work best for you based on your voice and the song you're recording. Map that out ahead of time, and when you arrive to your recording session, your engineer will probably ask you, well, do you want to start at the top? Do you want to sing it all the way through from beginning to end? They might ask you this question, and if they do, you'll have the answer prepared. If you haven't thought about it beforehand, you might be like, I don't know, I guess start at the top. And then it won't be until, mid-session that you're realizing, ooh, I should have started there. So have that all figured out beforehand, and that will save you so much time, so much energy and stress, and even the risk of having to come back and redo things later. Number 6 tip, come warmed up, but not overly tired. If you show up to a recording session and you're like, I still have the morning frog in my voice, or I'm not warmed up at all, you're paying the recording engineer and most likely the studio space like a lot of money. And you're going to just sit there and do some bubble lips, lip trills for half an hour to warm up. No, you want to do that before you get there. I usually have a little routine where I start doing like low humming, lip buzzes, lip trills, bubble lips, whatever you want to call them, like first thing in the morning when I know I have a session that day. And it really just depends on your voice. It depends on the song you're singing. It depends on the time of day your session is. But if your session is at night, you really want to make sure you're not overly, doing anything over the top that day. You want to keep it easy on your voice because your voice needs to be warmed up and fresh and not tired. If it's first thing in the morning, then you want to start right away. As soon as you get up, you get in the shower, you start doing lip buzzes, and then on your way over, let's say it's a 15-minute drive or a 20-minute drive, now you can start doing some real warm-up singing the song, but don't overdo it. Keep the voice feeling a little bit fresh, like it's just barely warmed up, okay? Number 7, come hydrated. Now, a lot of singers make this mistake where they have their water bottle, but they haven't been drinking water all day. So you're already dehydrated when you show up to the recording session and you're like, my voice is so cracky and dry. Why? And you're drinking water trying to get it to hydrate, but it's a little too late. Your body absorbs the water. It's not going to happen like, oh, in 3 seconds, I take a drink and now my cords are hydrated. Your body needs to be absorbing the moisture ahead of time. So if your session is first thing in the morning, as soon as you get up, you're drinking water, hydrating your body, especially because our bodies dehydrate over the night because most of us don't drink enough during the night. If it's like later in the day, great. Just make sure that you're staying hydrated all day long. And then, of course, bring your water with you. Don't bring ice water. Ice water and vocal cords, they make the cords a little bit more rigid and not as flexible. So you want it to be room temperature water. A little bit of lemon in there is great. Just know your voice, know your body, what works best for your voice, and come prepared with your drink, water, honey water, tea, whatever it is. And the number 8 tip, don't eat just before coming. Okay, so let's say it's at 10 o'clock in the morning and you wake up, you've warmed up, you've been drinking water, but you decide to hit Maverick drive-through, or McDonald's drive-through on the way over, and you arrive having just, finishing up your sandwich. Oh, please don't do that, okay? Because if you're a singer, you are probably well aware of the fact that eating creates phlegm, or just it can even make your stomach a little bit bubbly. It can make you burp. It's just not a good idea to have eaten just before. But also, don't be starving because you're going to be using so much energy to sing and sing properly. Even just a 2-hour recording session can be very, very draining. So if you have not eaten at all, you're going to crash pretty quick. So make sure that you eat something. Let's say it's at 10 in the morning. Eat something right when you wake up, a nice, good, healthy breakfast. And wake up a little earlier if you need to. Wake up at 8 o'clock so you have a couple of hours. You've eaten. The food is digested, you're not burping, you're not phlegmy, you've had plenty of time for water, and you're not starving. You have your nutrients. And then as soon as you're done with your recording session, you can go grab lunch. If it's later in the day, you want to just map it out perfectly so that you're timing your food, your nutrients, your energy in the way that doesn't conflict with your recording, that it will sustain you, give you the energy you need, but not actually interfere with your ability to sing. All right, that's it. That's 8 helpful tips. I hope they're helpful. Make sure you like and subscribe to my channel and share it. If you know singers that you're like, hey, especially if you're an engineer and you're like, oh my gosh, I need to send this to all of the singers that come and record with me, please do. I hope you'll share it. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you next time.